What's up, everybody? Welcome to the College Loop 8A Madness. Not an episode, usual episode at the very least. I'm joined by Harrison Tarr, no Daniel Larck today, and special guest Jacob Goins. Your third time on the show, just on the channel in general. How you doing?
Doing fantastic, guys. Yeah, I must be doing something right. You guys keep asking me to come back on. So either you just enjoy it or the fans like it or maybe a little bit of both.
Or it's an act of charity.
Yeah, that too. As long as the check shows up in the mail, I'm fine.
Well, Goins, thanks for joining us, man. We're really pumped to be talking football this week. As soon as we sat down for our 8-day week meeting, we were like, we're going to do an episode every day. We're doing 7 under 7. So it's going to be a grind. Plus, both of us have 2 shows on the Auburn Daily. So 9 shows under 7 days. Should be electric. Dylan has another one today. So 10 shows for him. Him in the past 8.
I completely understand, man. I completely understand.
We're getting after it. We're going to have a ton of fun with it. And when we were putting together our list of people we wanted to talk to leading up into A-Day, you were at the top of it. That's why you're playing lead off here. And
awesome. Well, I appreciate it, guys.
Of course, man. We're excited to talk. Let's start with the big boys. All right. We're going to talk to everybody. We're going to break down position by position group, and everyone's going to talk quarterback, whether you want to or not. Sorry about it. But we'll get to that a little later in the show. We'll get to the clickbait there at the end so people will watch through and get our takes. But let's start with the big boys. Dylan is very excited. Goins, what are you most excited for? We'll start with the offensive side of the ball on this offensive line and seeing the improvement year to year.
Well, it's interesting because actually earlier on last week on our show On the Line on ESPN 106.7, we had a caller and one of our frequent callers, but we were talking about, the position groups and who needed to get better, who was improving, and who was impressing so far through spring practice as we get close to A-Day. And one of our callers actually said, isn't it a good thing that we're not talking specifically about the offensive and defensive lines? And it's like, yeah, I think that is a good point because that means they're not disappointing like we've seen in the past. And to start with the offensive line, you're hearing really good things about who's going to be on this offensive line, whether it's transfers, whether it's freshmen coming in from the recruiting trail, whoever it may be. You're hearing good things about the offensive line. And more importantly, you're not hearing bad things about the offensive line. And that's something Auburn fans no news is wonderful news for the offensive line. And so we have a pretty good idea of who's going to be your starting 5 there. Maybe have some movement on who's going to play where. But yeah, you got guys like Connor Lew who have really impressed, who are going to be studs from now until they leave college. And just you hear good things about the offensive line, but more importantly, you're not hearing bad things. And I think that was a good point by a caller to our show earlier last week. And it's a really, really good point because we all know that's been the detrimental factor for Auburn football has been the offensive line, which has not existed in who knows how long. So on the offensive front, yeah, no news is good news in my opinion, boys.
Been a half decade since Auburn's been solid there. And before Dylan sneaks in a specific question, give me your 5 real quick if you got them or off the top of your head, Goins, and just so we can have it out and vocalized here on the College Loop. If you need a second, that's completely fine. I know Dylan's going to talk to you a little bit about the stud that's going to be Connor Lew. But the 5 that are clicking to you, and we're going to agree. I just wanted to put it out there in the sphere and give you an opportunity to get quoted on the graphic there.
Yeah. I got to get everybody pulled up. Well, like I said, Connor Lew, he's a guy that for Auburn coming in, you just know he's going to be that dude, right? And you have some really big bodies up front as well for Auburn. And that's on me.
I'm all good at riffing if we need to. I the line every single day of my life, really, because you bring in players like Gunner Britton, Avery Jones. Is Deon Miller coming in from community college in the recruiting class? You got Jeremiah Wright returning. Cameron Stutz has been showing out this offseason. Connor Lew has been my favorite recruit coming in.
Guys, who's starting at center?
Between Connor Lew and Avery Jones, but I'm not opposed to Connor Lew because Avery Jones played guard at both East Carolina and North Carolina when he was there.
And Tay Johnson's been getting reps there too, so I don't know if that's going to be the go-to. I don't think so. I just don't know if he's got the size to compete at that, but he's impressed so far from what I've seen. So, I mean, with him, I just don't know. I think you got to look at size more than anything when when it comes to the guards versus the tackles and then the center. And your center's got to be just so you got to be good at everything, right? And you're literally the focal point of the offensive line. And so that's what I've seen. But it seems pretty solid. But again, it's going to be more of who in particular is going to go where on the offensive line.
My only concern with Connor Lew, it's very hard to play center as a freshman. And I say that just because you've not been through the weight regimen yet. And you've not really you've got that abbreviated window of bulk between whether that be mass or just your eating regimen that they're going to put you on just to make you one of those hulking super teens, as Lindsey Crosby and Zach Blackerby like to call them. But
yes,
I'm curious to see how that all shakes out. Do we get answers this weekend? Do we get some clarity on Saturday, Goins?
I would think so. But again, the important thing to remember about A-Day, guys, is it's the spring game, and some guys are not going to play a whole lot. Some guys will. Everybody, they're going to be doing their own thing. And one thing that Hugh Freeze mentioned early on was that his spring game, and this one in particular, may look a little different than what you've seen in the past or what a traditional spring game would look like. And it may just be more of, we're going to split up, and the defense has 24 points. The offense starts with 0, and you've got a full 4 quarters or whatever it is to stop them, or something along those lines. So I think it's going to look a little bit different, which is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But with spring games, you want to watch, you want to see what happens, you want to see who looks good, who stands out, who plays, who doesn't, where people play, which different spots they're in. But you can take that with a grain of salt because it is important. Don't get me wrong. It's absolutely important, but it's not everything, right? So I think that's really important. But I think you're going to see some answers. And again, I think when you look at the offensive line in particular, I look at Gunner Britton, the senior, again, Tate Johnson, who has been seeing a lot of action there. We saw him get action late last season. I look at guys like Cam Stutz. I think he is somebody, your senior leadership, that's going to see some really, really big time there. Avery Jones as well. Just some guys that have experience and size on that offensive line. Something, guys, we have not been able to say in a really long time for Auburn football. So.
I mean, I've gone on record saying this is going to be the best offensive line Auburn fans have seen since 2017, and gone even further beyond to say Gunner Britton's going to be the best left tackle we've seen since Greg Robinson, who, of course, went second overall in the 2014 NFL draft to the Rams. Hopefully the career doesn't follow the same pattern that one went, but Gunner Britton is going to be a great all-time offensive line for the Auburn Tigers. But to flip the sides, to switch, from going to protect the quarterback to score to getting to the quarterback to prevent scoring, how has the outlook of the defensive line been through the spring thus far?
Well, the most exciting thing that I've heard about the defensive line is in the scrimmage, what was that, about a week and a half or so ago on that Friday afternoon, the defensive line had 3 sacks from 3 different players. And that in itself is a really, really big factor, in my opinion, because same way with the offensive line where they couldn't keep the quarterback protected. Last year, what was the complaint with the defensive line? They couldn't get to the quarterback. They couldn't put on any pressure. And so the fact that in a scrimmage, Auburn's defensive line had 3 sacks from 3 different players tells me that you're getting it from different sides, you're getting it from different angles, and you're also using different techniques and different skill sets and also different looks to get pressure on the quarterback. And I don't think that's any hate against the offensive line. I think this is love for the defensive line. And if they're able to get pressure and get to the quarterback, guys, that's what happened last year was they just couldn't get any pressure, and quarterbacks sat in the pocket and tore them apart. And Auburn's secondary is probably the most solid group that we know of right now on the defense. I mean, it's full of studs, right? We've heard great things about the secondary for Auburn, but it doesn't matter how good you are if the quarterback has 10 or 15 seconds in the pocket to make a play. And especially in the SEC, there's too many good quarterbacks that if you give them that much time, they're going to make a play. So that's what I know so far is that the defensive line, they've got some size, they've got some skill. The guys behind them at linebacker, that's the big question on defense. But the fact that the big boys up front are getting pressure early in spring practice, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, the linebacker conversations, I'll just call it gross. I'm so glad that that's going to be a whole show this week is going to be having to talk about what does a successful day look like for the linebackers on Saturday. But let me ask you real quick, and I know we keep it in the perspective that it is a spring scrimmage. Ultimately, folks, they are letting you in Geriner for an eagle flight in a practice. I get this. I understand. That being said, Goins, what does a successful Saturday look like for this defensive line? Quarterbacks are protected. We know that it's a different set there. But what does this look like for you to walk for? What would they need to do for you to walk away and say, you know what, they had a very good showing in front of a crowd today?
For the defensive line or just the team in general?
Defensive line. We'll get more. We'll get there in a second.
Yeah, I think for the defensive line, again, to get pressure, show me some different looks, whether it's a three-man front or if you stack in the box with 5, 6, 7 guys, whatever it may be. And showing different looks and showing pressures from different angles. I think that's so important on the defensive side of the ball is unpredictability, where you can show blitz from one guy and bring pressure from another, or your defensive line can line up in different spots and do different formations and different run patterns to get to the quarterback and stop the run. That's one thing that I've heard that they've been okay at is stopping the run. And we know Auburn's got some really, really good running backs, guys. And if they can stop the running backs, right, and just slow them down a little bit and then put more pressure on the quarterback, that's a success for me for that defensive line. And again, just showing different plays, showing different sets of how you're going to get pressure on the quarterback, get a little bit of a push, and see where this thing goes. But I think the defensive line is really, really solid.
I don't disagree whatsoever. Did I cut you off? I'm sorry, Dill.
Oh no, you're good. I was disagreeing with what he was going to say, but we're looking across the defensive line. So the edge rusher position is going to be battling out between Elijah McAllister and you got Keldric Faulk coming in. And of course, Dylan Brooks stayed with the team at least until the spring, unless Keldric Faulk just absolutely obliterates him. So from the edge rush position, we are long past the days now of Derek Hall and Eku Leota, and again past the days of the great edge rushers that Auburn has had in the past. So what do you think out of those three? Who do you think is going to be the day one starter, and why is it going to be Keldric Faulk later on in the season?
Well, I love Keldric Faulk, guys. He's a stud. He is, and he is athletic. He is skilled. He's smart. He just knows how to play that position, and he knows the game of football on the defensive side so well. I think it's Keldric Faulk. I would like for him to be the day one starter. I'd like for him to be the day one starter. I think he's good enough to do it. I really do. I think he's good enough to be that guy. Will he be it? I don't know yet, but I would love to see it because I truly think he has that skill and has that capability to be that dude on the defensive side of the football.
I've always long said Goins knows ball. I'm not disagreeing here. I do think Elijah McAllister will be getting first team reps at least on Saturday this week. I won't be surprised if they rotate kind of in and out. I think Elijah McAllister will open it up this year. I do think Keldric Faulk will win the job, but I don't know why you would bring in a transfer with SEC experience and then not play him. But I've seen way wackier stuff before. I mean, hell, I lived through the Malzahn and Harsin era, so I've seen way crazier things in my life.
I will say, well, with Keldric Faulk, if he wins the job and Elijah McAllister being on roster for another season, I think this does end the Dylan Brooks era.
Oh, yeah.
For what it wasn't at the time. I feel like he'll be back and he'll be in the portal very soon. But to look at the other three positions are even more of a question mark as well, because you brought in a lot of talent. You got Justin Rogers, Jason Jones returns, Marcus Harris is back, but Zykeivous Walker, you got him back. You got Jeffrey Imba. This defensive line in general is just stacked. And how in the world do you put this on a depth chart? You can't have all 20 of them on the field at the same time. So how does that look depth wise?
Well, I mean, it's important, right? We know what it takes to play SEC football in general, and then on the defensive side, and to kind of loop back to A-Day in general, what would look like a successful spring practice and spring game for Auburn is to stay healthy. And that's where depth comes in, in the SEC, whether it's the defensive line or where we saw a big struggle last year for Auburn was the linebackers room staying healthy. Because if KJ Britt went down, it was, oh crap, who's going to play linebacker? And so that's important to have on the defensive line for Auburn is you do have that depth. You have guys who have SEC experience, who have college football experience that they may not start, but they're going to get significant playing time. And depth is so big in the SEC. And that's what the defensive line has. I think that's what you see on the running back room. I think it's what you see in the secondary. And those things are extremely important. And that's what it's going to take for this to be a successful spring game on Saturday is health. Everybody's got to stay healthy, fingers crossed, prayers up that everything goes well. But that's what I think of when I look at the defensive line is you have skill, you have size, and like you said, Dylan, you've got depth, which that'll carry you into November for college football when guys just start getting hurt and the just the brutal play of SEC schedule and SEC football really kicks in.
I'm sorry if it looks like I'm laughing. It's because I was going through all the positions that you were saying, and Auburn has so much depth at defensive line, running back, and I'm like, when's he going to say quarterback? Oh, he's probably not. And
I left that one out. Yeah.
It really got. There are going to be bodies there. There are going to be people. That are listed as quarterbacks on this roster. And I'm going to catch some flack for that. The hell, I don't really care. That's kind of what we do, right? It's kind of my shtick.
The whole fan base agrees with you.
That being said, that kind of got my gears turning. I told you, Goins, I wasn't going to hang you out to dry. Everyone on the show this week is going to talk about the quarterbacks. Who has the most to lose? Who has the most to gain this week? And why is it Robby Ashford, then Holden Geriner in that order?
Who has the most to gain and the most to lose this week in the quarterback room? I would say the most to gain. That's a tough question because when you look at the three guys right now, right? TJ Finley is TJ Finley. He is what he is. And I'm pretty sure I've said that on this program before. I've definitely said it on my show before. TJ Finley is TJ Finley. You know what you're going to get with him. I know he looks good in practice. I know he looks good in scrimmages or whatever. But when he steps on the field for live game action, it's just not there. And so I don't think he's a part of this. I really don't think he's on this roster after spring. Come summer, I think he's in the portal. I don't think he's on Auburn's roster. I don't think he's a part of this. So when you break it down to the guys that are on campus right now, Robby Ashford and Holden Geriner, I think the most to gain from a good week of practice and the spring game on Saturday, the most to gain is Holden Geriner, in my opinion, because he's the young guy, right? He's young, just like Robby is. But we've heard great things about Holden in spring. We've heard really, really good things about pro day. Him. Yeah, especially the pro day where he was hand chosen to throw for John Samuel Shanker and basically throw for throw with Cam Newton, who is an Auburn legend, obviously, and played in the NFL. And so I think Holden, an NFL MVP, should have been Super Bowl champ. But Holden Geriner, I think it's most people would say Robby, but I'm going to go with Holden because I think he is good enough to take the starting job and be the starter if nobody else comes into this team, nobody comes in through the portal, which maybe, right? But as of right now, I just don't know if Robby Ashford is there yet because he's still struggling with accuracy issues, guys. He's still struggling to hit his receivers and throw the football. And I know he's athletic. I know he can run, and I know he can make plays. But the quarterback position hasn't changed. You still got to be able to throw the football. And the fact that Robby Ashford is still struggling with that is an issue for me. And so he has a lot of room to grow. And a lot of people would say that Robby Ashford's ceiling might be higher than Holden Geriner's. But I think when you look at it right now, if Holden's still playing like he is and how he has been in spring and has a good A-Day, he could be the leader in the clubhouse coming out of spring practice as we approach summer. So most of the game is Holden Geriner for me because I think he's good enough to be the starter right now.
You see, this is why we bring Jacob Goins on the show. He knows ball. It sounds like Jacob's ready to start my campaign of Holden Geriner propaganda with me. I'm firmly, and I may have said it to you before. If Robby Ashford could figure out how to consistently be a strong thrower of the football and an accurate thrower of the football, this guy's ceiling is Nick Marshall.
Absolutely.
I don't think that's a crazy assumption, I guess, comparison. Unfortunately, if he can't, it's like a 60% better John Franklin III.
Wow, you reached back for that one a little bit, John Franklin III. Okay,
I did, especially since we had some stupid graphic come out the other day about your birth month needing a last 2-minute thrill, whatever, to save your life or something. And
that social media guy
Dylan had me listed at John Franklin III.
Hey, the social
we're gonna run the read option the entire way down the field. Anyways, that being said, I've just not heard enough and seen enough. Now, granted, media gets 40 minutes. We get 40 minutes when we get to go watch practice. So I take it all with a grain of salt, but I've just not heard enough about the progression of Robby Ashford. So we would therefore assume the lack thereof progression to believe that he is not in jeopardy of losing. I use in air quotes because I don't know the job's his, but losing that starting job. And I'll tell you right now, Goins, I'll be interested to get your thoughts, man. And all eyes at Geriner Stadium, however many are there on Saturday, and I think it's going to be a pretty packed house if the weather's nice because I think people are excited. They're going to be on the quarterback position. People will be concerned about other things and want to know how McPherson kicks the ball. They'll be interested in that. They'll be interested in seeing some of these new guys in new places. They'll want to see Nick Mardner. Heard a lot about him. Rivaldo Fairweather. Yeah, they don't give a shit in comparison. They want to know who's going to be playing quarterback for their favorite football team. How important is it for both of those guys that they go out and play solid? Because people will turn against them.
Yeah, I mean, it's important. You want to show out and you want to show up for your coaches, for the fans. It's your one opportunity in the spring to really show up and show out. And, I think both guys will play well. I think all three will play well. That includes TJ Finley.
It is a practice.
I think they're all going to – yeah. It is a practice, and it doesn't technically count for anything. So he will probably look pretty good, and you're going to have people that are going to say, wow, maybe TJ Finley is the answer. And I'm going to tell you no, that he's not, because we know what TJ Finley is. So don't buy into it because you're just going to get burned. But I think it's important for Robby and Holden to have good days. I think they will. But again, it's a day and it's a spring practice. And again, I want to stress that Hugh Freeze mentioned, and I'm interested to see if he says this week in press conferences and media and stuff like that, if he's truly planning on this being a different looking spring game and how that affects each player's performance. But yeah, I mean, that's what fans care about. They care about the quarterback battle, right? That's what gets the most calls on our show every single day. If we talk about the quarterback battle, they're all about it. And it's an interesting topic. And so I think it's important for Robby and Holden to go out and play well. I think they both will. And this may be an undecided quarterback race as we get out of the spring. But again, do not think that Hugh Freeze and this staff are not going to go look at the transfer portal, because in my opinion, and I still believe this, there's a good chance the starter for Auburn in the fall is not even on campus yet.
I can't tell you how many times we have said that exact phrase right here on the College Loop.
Yeah, for once we can't say we stole that quote from you. We've been saying it before you got on today's show. But
we've been saying it quite a bit.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned TJ Finley could have a good spring game. He didn't last year.
So does that mean that if TJ has a good spring game, that there's progression? I'm starting to TJ propaganda.
It means there is progression. That's the bare minimum. He did good in the spring game, and he is now the starter. Yeah, congratulations. But Robby was the star of last year's. We saw that he threw the best deep ball out of whoever was the other quarterback playing after TJ Finley. Was it Holden Geriner too, and someone else? There was like
it would have been Finley, Geriner, Ashford, and like.
Was D Davis there yet? Or
Grant Lloyd, maybe?
Yeah, Grant Lloyd had not been there. But, I mean, TJ Finley did not do well in that game. Robby Ashford popped off. And maybe this is because, you can't get tackled in that game. Big thing with the quarterback battle is Holden Geriner, and I think he has a lot of potential. But the scheme that Hugh Freeze is running and the scheme that he has had the most success with running, and especially with Philip Montgomery running the offense now, it's made for dual threats. We've seen it with Robert Griffin III, won a Heisman under Philip Montgomery. Malik Willis got drafted under Hugh Freeze, both dual threat guys, and Chad Kelly had a lot of success being a dual threat. Bo Wallace had a little bit of success, but he threw a lot of picks. That's because he was a pocket guy and he couldn't really run out of the pocket. That's why I think Robby Ashford gets a slight edge for me, at least, because I don't think Holden Geriner is that advanced as a runner to really get the job done. And it kind of terrifies me because if you don't get a transfer guy, you have a guy who can run and you have a guy who can pass, and you can't put them both in because
you can.
The ancient
if you run the option.
The ancient old saying is, if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. So you have to go,
which is fair. Yeah, which is fair.
It's true.
But when I look at these two quarterbacks and you're comparing Robby Ashford's running ability to Holden Geriner's throwing ability for what we know right now, I'm going to take the quarterback that can throw, guys, because again, it's the quarterback position. And I want the quarterback who can step up and throw the football. I know Robby can make plays with his legs. And for a lot of the time last year, that's all he had because he didn't have any time to do anything. But when it comes down to it, I would rather have the guy that can throw the ball, can make plays with his arm, and then if he absolutely has to, every now and then make a play with his legs. Holden Geriner can make plays with his legs. That's not his go-to thing. That's not his skill set. That's not his number one thing. He can move better than TJ Finley can, so that's a plus, right?
TJ Finley's not bare minimum. You're comparing that to, by the way.
Yes. TJ Finley is not going anywhere, guys. When he steps in the pocket, it's a tree. He ain't going anywhere. But Holden Geriner can make plays if he has to, but that's not his instinct. His instinct is, I got to throw this football. I got to find an open guy and make a play. Robby Ashford is, okay, pocket's collapsing. I'm going to take off, which is fine. But I would rather have the guy that can throw the football consistently and has to make a play with his legs if that is what he has to do, rather than Robby Ashford, who you can't trust to make a complete pass when you absolutely need it, and is going to scramble more times than not.
To bolster, before we wrap this thing up and get out of here, Goins, to bolster what I'm coining as the Tarr Goins Geriner propaganda campaign, I'll go ahead and throw this out there. The last time Auburn had a quarterback that was pass first, make running plays, if only if need be, behind a solid offensive line, was Jarrett Stidham in 2017. It was kind of special. That being said, just throwing, like I said, Goins is he's seeing the vision. We're
gonna start comparing dual threat quarterbacks to Cam Newton and Nick Marshall, and pass first quarterbacks to Jarrett Stidham and
hey, you're forgetting the part where I used the words JF3 on this show.
Oh, that's because you were coming at me.
That happened today. Goins, thank you so much for joining us today, man. I really appreciate you taking your time out of your day on a Sunday too, folks. So make sure when he plugs his content for you and where to find him, you better go support him, because I disturbed him on his day of rest because he's a G and we appreciate the hell out of him. You're welcome on the show anytime, brother, and it's always good to talk ball with you. Tell everybody where they can love you, find you, support you.
Guys, I appreciate it. As always, it's always fun to get on here and talk ball. It's crazy that we're already at the spring game, right? Isn't that crazy? We're already in the month of April. Baseball is college baseball is in full swing, no pun intended. Major league is just getting started, and high school is coming down the stretch as well. And so, I appreciate you guys having me on. You can follow me on Twitter at Goins2Jacob. That's GOINS, the number 2, JACOB. Also follow our radio station, ESPN 106.7 on Twitter and Facebook. And then tune into my show On the Line from 2 to 4 every single day, Monday through Friday on ESPN 106.7 here in Auburn, Opelika, or ESPNAU.com. You can find it there as well. Me and Carter talk all things Auburn. We'll be talking a lot of A-Day coming up this week, wrapping up the Final Four National Championship, all that good stuff, and really just hammering football as A-Day approaches on Saturday.
Heard that. I'm Harrison Tarr, at by Harrison Tarr on Twitter. If you want to check out any of my written work, that is at the Auburn Daily. No gimmicks there. It's quite easy to find. You can find it in my Twitter bio as well. If you want to listen to more of my podcasting work, that is on the Auburn Daily Show every Wednesday and Friday. Wednesday with Dylan Larck, Friday with the legendary Lindsey Crosby. Also on the College Loop every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday with Dylan, sometimes Daniel, sometimes Goins. Who knows who's going to pop up and walk through that door next. If you're watching the YouTube version, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell, and let us know in the comments who you think is going to win the quarterback battle. Who do you think is going to stand out the most on either side of the trenches? And why is it that Jacob Goins is your favorite guest that has been reoccurring right here on the College Loop? Dylan, I'll let you go ahead and get us out of here.
Go ahead and point out, it's not sometimes Dylan Larck on this show. It's always Dylan Larck on this show, because I have yet to miss an episode. I've put up 2 episodes by myself.
Do it himself, Dylan.
Follow me, Dylan Larck at your boy the Tank on Twitter. It should be right below me if you're watching this. If you're listening, it's at YABOY the Tank. Also catch me on the Auburn Daily Show every Monday with Lance Stahl and Wednesdays with the red-nosed dude over here. And catch me on the College Loop as well every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And follow us on social media, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube Shorts as well. We're on there too. And podcasts are Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts. There we go. And sorry, not a MySpace at all of that. That's yet to have been obtained. But with that, this has been 8A Madness, day 1 with the College Loop.